How's it going, my friends? My name is Gary and this is my channel, Weakest of Weeks. If you're a first time viewer, I appreciate you clicking on the video and definitely consider subscribing. Speaking of subscribing, if you've been following along for some time now, you know my channel has kind of revolved around some quirky things, some quirky motorcycles like Buells and especially Saabs. So I have a love for red vehicles and I did just recently pick up a new Swedish meatball. Let me show you what I got. This is what I picked up, 2015 and a half, yes, that is a thing, 2015 and a half Volvo XC60 R-Design in passion red. Now I did call it a Swedish meatball. Well, it is kind of a complicated story. While Volvo originated in Sweden, it's been sold off various times, and now I believe it to be owned by a Chinese company, but this model was made in Belgium. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of things, but stylistically, I absolutely love the way this model looks, this generation. The newer ones have what's called the Thor's hammer, where it's got kind of a split in between, and I don't know what it is about it. Kind of a love it or hate it design. I like this one well more so than the newer version, but some people consider this one to be dated, which in reality, being from 2015, it is quite dated at this point in time. But overall, Volvo, they've kind of retained that Coke bottle shape to it. And this one in the passion red, absolutely fell in love because I have the laser red Saab 9.3 Aero, and I think this matches beautifully with it. Now I'm not going to go over Doug DeMuro style over the whole entire thing, but I figured I would just kind of give you a brief overview of so far my experience with it. I've had this vehicle for roughly 2 months now, and it's been quite the experience. I ended up purchasing it from Carvana. Getting kind of bright out. Now, I'm not going to go too far into depth with my online purchase of this vehicle via Carvana, but I will say this, Carvana and Vroom. I've purchased from Carvana, I've had friends purchase from Vroom. My friends had issues getting their registration because the 45 temp tags expired, then they had to re-up on it. Couldn't drive the vehicle for a week in between that renewal, and then they almost had to renew it again, but I don't think you can in Ohio, so it was this whole thing until they got the plates. My case, I had one set of 45-day temp tags, and by the end of that I had my actual registration and license plate, so that was positive. The delivery of this vehicle was supposed to arrive on a Tuesday. I got busy with work. I called them on a Wednesday. There was a disconnect between, I guess, the location that they were delivering it from. This was actually in New York. It was shipped to a central distribution location here in Columbus, Ohio, and then there was some disconnect between the Columbus distribution center and where I live in Columbus. So it was supposed to get delivered on Tuesday, called them on a Wednesday, and then I didn't see the vehicle till Thursday, but that was no big deal. And I would say the vehicle was as described. Carvana, they make it simple for you. You can actually kind of rotate around the vehicle and it'll denote any little imperfection that they find. Now, there's some things that they probably miss, but for the most part, I would say I am actually extremely pleased. And well, I'm sure you don't want to see my face. Let me show you kind of, I guess, some of the defects on the vehicle. So like I said, this is a 2015 and a half. It is in fact used, came from New York, which is actually surprisingly in pretty darn good condition from when I think of New York. Now when I think of New York, I think New York City and basically people using their vehicles as bumper cars. But there's a couple dings here and there. There's one you can probably see right there that they applied some touch-up paint to, and then there's another one right here. This one drives me a little more nuts just because this quarter panel is so large, and at the right angle it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, but I'm sure with a little PDR that would pop out, no big deal. And then overall the vehicle is just absolutely filthy, but fortunately, being this bright red color, it hides the filth pretty good. But I did have some birds use this back tailgate as target practice. But moving along, I mean, it's pretty good. The wheels are in good shape. They're not super curbed up. I will say that the vehicle will need some brakes, rotors, and dust shields. Underneath is pretty clean. Probably can't see it, but it does appear to be undercoated. I do plan to paint the calipers. I don't know if I want to paint them red or like a Polestar blue, but speaking of Polestar, this being an R-Design, this is the inline 6 3.0 turbocharged engine that is in fact Polestar tuned. Usually I love the badging things, going for that clean look. Ignore the bird poo run, but yes, it is T6 all-wheel drive Polestar tuned. Absolutely love this thing. We'll go ahead and start with the engine bay. Pop the hood up in here. Got a cool little R-Design there. Again, really dirty. I've had this thing for 2 months and I've driven this just about every bit of the 2 months I've had this thing. And here's the magic. 3.0 liter inline 6 turbo engine, 325 horsepower, 354 torque, I believe. Oh geez. Well, I just had this thing in for service, so that's awesome. Okay. Anyways, so here it is. Not a lot of room in this engine bay. I do look forward to a tune-up because compared to the 2.8 liter V6 Saab, where the back 3 cylinders are up against the firewall, this being an inline, all 6 coils are right on the top. Nice and beautiful. Everything is quite compact in here. It's got quite a unique design with the AC compressor. There's like a decoupler pulley and then it goes over and then the alternator is right there. So that's kind of cool until you probably have to service it. Plenty of space through here. Not a lot of space on either side of it. But yeah, hopefully I won't have to work on the engine of this thing for a very long time. Now as far as problems goes, now a positive thing with Carvana, you do have a 7-day 400-mile return policy. Now I ended up putting 400 miles on this car in 2 days. I drive a lot in some weeks, so I did put a lot of miles on it. Then I just kind of had it sit for a little bit. I was doing some work to the Saab, getting it tuned, finalizing the injector install, so I had this kind of poking around the background and was driving this while the Saab was down. Well, anyways, that was perfectly fine. I didn't have any issues that first week. Now after that, Carvana, they give you a 100-day X amount of miles. I forget how many it is. It might be 5,000, might be 7,000. I don't know. I'll have to look it up and I'll put it in the description. But basically, you have 100 days warranty after that. Within 7 days, you can get a full refund or exchange the vehicle out. After that, you're kind of stuck with it, but they're pretty open to fixing the vehicle depending on what it is. Now, they will dictate what shop to take it to. So where I'm getting at is, I put the 400 miles on it, and then probably a week or two later, I'm at like 600-700 miles while I'm driving, and the vehicle out of nowhere shuts off. Completely dead, no power whatsoever. As I'm driving 45 miles an hour, have to coast to the side of the road, no power steering, no power brakes at that point, no turn signals, and no hazards. I'm stuck on the side of a busy road. Well, come to find out, this little fusible link guy, it's like a resettable fuse, ended up going bad, and whenever this got to a certain temperature, it would trigger and it would cut all power to the vehicle. So that left me stranded on 3 separate occasions before I was able to get this repaired. Now, Carvana was really cool about getting it to a shop, getting it repaired. However, the shops that they recommend, well, I don't want to say incompetent, but they're struggling for good workers. So that was the #1 problem that I've had for this, and I'll probably have a small separate video on that ordeal. But outside of that, as far as options goes, this is the absolute top tier R-Design model, being the Platinum Edition. So it does have the keyless entry, so you have the button where you can lock it and unlock it, and it's on every single door handle, which is nice. Has the power fold mirrors, very nice and super comfy R-Design seats. Now I think these seats are the upgraded ones. They almost have like a suede version. These are more of a all leather pleather version, which are memory, which is absolutely amazing. And one bonus to the 2015 and a half is it has this awesome display. And there's 3 different menus. Like this is the performance one, being in red. There's an elegance one and an eco mode. But this one I like being in red, and then also it shows up top here the speed in a digital format. But overall, I mean, it's not too fancy. This is, I think, unique to the R-Design, this little silver guy. One downside that wasn't pointed out was just this like real cracked automatic shifter, which I thought was really bizarre, but after looking into it, I guess that's like super duper common. They make a Polestar version of this. I am likely going to switch out to that. But everything else, I mean, this is the top tier model, so it's got the power liftgate. It's got power rear headrests. I don't know, probably the most useless option I'll ever have in a vehicle. It's got a heated steering wheel. I do live in a cold climate, so that is super handy. The rear seats are heated. It's got lane assist. It's got adaptive cruise control, which is actually up here. And this is, I forget, it's like some braking thing, so it looks out for pedestrians and bicyclists and stuff. And then also if a car is braking quickly in front of you, it'll show up red on your dash up there, and it'll actually apply the brakes. And actually that's what this might be. I don't know. These are all very similar, but this one does have all the bells and whistles. I think it's kind of cool that 2015 and a half, they do have a CD player, and it's got Volvo Sensus Connect, I think is what they call it. Nothing too fancy. I mean, it's pretty par for the course for this era, but it gets the job done, and the reverse camera is actually pretty darn nice. I just got to get used to like the proximity sensors, and this kind of offsets the camera, which makes it a little bizarre and takes some time to get used to. It's kind of neat. You can press this cam button and just actually, as the vehicle is in park, press the cam and you can see behind you, which is pretty neat. It's got the blind spot monitoring, which is a must. I absolutely love that. Very cool frameless design rear view mirror. It's got a massive panoramic sunroof with the power sunshade. We'll press it one more time, open up the sunroof. The doggo is pretty impressed with it. And being the platinum version, it's got a 12 speaker Harman Kardon sound system, which sounds really, really nice. One of the most annoying things about this vehicle, though, I will have to say, is this Volvo on-call service required alert that literally comes up every single time you start this freaking vehicle. Now, you can simply just press OK to clear it out of the way, but it's super annoying. And it seems like they want you to pay for a service that I just personally don't want. Now, I've gone in the system settings. I've called Volvo. You can press the buttons up here. I told them that I wanted it deactivated. Along with that, I actually called Volvo specifically because I think that's a secondary service that you talk to. But I called Volvo. I got an activation code, or I should say a deactivation code, put it in the system. But yet that still pops up every single time I start the vehicle. So if you know how to get rid of that alert, please let me know in the comment section down below. Kind of funny now that I'm in here, I'm kind of remembering some other random things that popped up. Outside of the Volvo on call alert that pops up literally every single time I start the vehicle, I would routinely have a random alert every so often that would pop up that would say charge required, low battery, something to that effect. And well, after some research, turns out if you replace the battery in this, there's actually a reset procedure you need to do for the vehicle. Now, most people take it to the dealer, but I will link the video in the description up top. That was a tremendous help. There is a sequence that you need to do with the start button, with the rear fog light, with the hazards within a certain period of time, and it actually resets that counter. So Carvana replaced the battery in the engine bay. They must not have reset that counter, because once I did that manual reset procedure that I found in that other video, I've never had that battery alert ever since. So knock on wood, most vehicles normally have some fake wood. I'll just knock on this plastic that alert does not come back. We'll go ahead and turn this off. We'll do the power lift gate, show you the back. If you want to see the doggo back here, that's Piper, my co-pilot, at least one of them, but it's all nice and remotely clean back here. This is pretty cool. This headrest goes up manually, adjustable, and of course has the cup holder, and then the rear heated seat buttons back there. But I have a old blanket, so old doggo doesn't get that all scratched up. Moving to the back, this has a pretty cool LED that runs from the top to the corner, so at night that is very nice. And the seats 60-40 split. Actually, I don't know technically what that is, but the seats do split down, corner, corner, and then the center. Normally it's like a 60-40, but being a three-way, I don't know what exactly they call it. This is really cool. It came with the factory floor mats, and this lifts up as like a grocery holder of sorts. And then you lift up this completely, and then you have some cubby space, and then lift that up, and then you of course have the factory tire, which is nice. It's got an actual physical tire, not a air pumping fix-a-flat for lack of a better term, and the factory jack and tow hook and such. So everything is nice and tidy in here. As far as miles, I think I'm up to 64,000, give or take. Nice dual exhaust. Has some good tires to it, not necessarily name brand, but good as far as the tread. The wheels are nice. They are 20-inch 255 45 ZR20s. And again, here are those brakes that I'll likely change, hopefully before winter, but if not, I'll park it and I'll go ahead and do those. So let me know if you think I should do red calipers or like a Polestar blue. So far as modifications, I've just put on a Euro plate, radio flyer. As a kid, I loved a radio flyer wagon, and on the registration this shows as a wagon. It's bright red, and for whatever reason it reminds me of being a kid, just a lot cooler of a kid now with a T6 all-wheel drive turbo XC60 R-Design. Other mods, I just kind of slapped on some Thule roof bars. Time to time I throw a roof box on it, actually the same one that I put on the Saab time to time. I absolutely love this thing so far. Now unfortunately there is one other issue, and I just found this out 2 days ago, and there is a washer fluid reservoir right here, and whenever I fill it up there's got to be a crack in that reservoir because it actually dumps out probably 60% of that fluid. So what that means is this bumper will be getting removed. Now I do still have a basic Carvana warranty under that Silver Rock program that has fixed that battery cable in the engine bay. However, that took way longer than it should have, and the tank itself is more expensive than it needs to be. It's like $85 plus tax, but I don't want the vehicle down for over a week again, and I don't honestly trust the shop that I've took this to get that battery cable replaced to remove this bumper. And again, like, they left this tool in my engine bay, so what else did they leave whenever they changed my oil and did that battery cable? So it's one of those things where I would just rather spend the money out of pocket. I know I can bust this thing out within a day or two, and I can do it on my own free will, and I have my backup Saab if I need to get anywhere. So that's going to wrap it up on the walk around for my 2015 and a half Volvo XC60 R-Design in this beautiful passion red color. If you like this kind of video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing for more content. Speaking of that, there is going to be more Saab stuff out here in the near future. I am not done with Saab stuff, but if you want to see more Volvo content, definitely subscribe. If you want to see any Volvo content in particular, drop a comment down below and I will consider doing a video on it. Now I will say I do plan to do a video about removal of the front bumper as well as the replacement of that washer fluid reservoir. With that being said, I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you friends next time.